I grew up in a dysfunctional household, which led me to the streets and becoming rebellious. During my life in the streets, I found knowledge of self, which led me to becoming an entrepreneur. I opened a store called Hobby Boys, which was known in the community by many. I also opened a restaurant called Richie's. I was at the peak of my achievements. Things was going great. Life couldn't get no better. And then the pandemic hits. Now I'm back outside, enjoying life to the fullest. Despite the minor setback, it was a plan for a major comeback, which led me into the fashion and creating the brand B-Lo NY and bringing you this content at Real Spill 716. What's up, good people? It's your boy, Toe Jitto, here on Real Spill 716, coming at you with the Real Spill. And today's Real Spill, we're gonna talk about life in general and detaching yourself from materialistic or materialism. But before we get started, you already know, we gotta give a moment of silence for those that lost someone. All right, now let's get to it. Life and what it actually means to be alive or to be living. The definition or the true meaning of life is in the word itself. You see, when you talk about life and you talk about living, you're talking about a vibrant notion. You're talking about absolute motion, not just breathing. You see, life consists of always being active, in motion, and constructive. You see, anything else other than that is death. You see, and nowadays, people not chasing life, they chasing death. Feel me? Now, people think they chasing life because they're alive, which means you're breathing, or, you know, you still function. You still got your consciousness, or you still, let's say you still in tuned with your senses. So people feel like, you know, they're living, but really you're just breathing. To be living is to be active. Like I said, it's to be in the motion of constructive behavior, so to speak. So when you say, yo, I'm living, or, you know, if you say, I have a life, then that means it consists of things that deals with constructive growth. You see, life in its entirety is based upon growth. You can't say I'm living and your notions of life is stagnating or you're not growing. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at your life and you take the good with the bad, but you categorize the two. And if you got more bad than good, then you're not living. You chasing death. You dying, so to speak. But if you got more good than bad, then yeah, you chasing life. which is, like I said, it's the act of being alive, but having a notion of constructive behavior, if that makes sense. So, understanding life and what it actually represents, then you'll be able to recognize your ways and actions if it's other than life or life aiding behavior. You understand? And knowing that should have you make choices that pertains to living. You understand? That should make your decisions more constructive. Add on more to your progressive way of living when you saying or when you're seeking life. When you're seeking life, your behavior should be more in a constructive manner. Add on to the plus and the progressive aspects of what you got going on. That's life. And like I said, anything else other than, then that's death. You know what I'm saying? But before we even get any further into this discussion, we're gonna give a shout out to our sponsors.
I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, B-Lo NY, with that great premium quality fashion. They got distressed tees. You see the quality. They got distressed tees of all types, colors. They got yoga sets for women, all types, colors. You see? T-shirts. Got your crop tees for ladies. Got your hoodie dresses for ladies. Got your bags, your crossbodies. I got me one of these already. Feel me? Got your suede truckers. Got your snapbacks. Official tissue. Snapbacks for you. Got your distressed hoodies. Got your distressed shorts. Got your beanies. Come on, man. Get fly with B-Lo NY. Premium quality, quiet luxury. Word. Check them out at B-Lo NY _2024 on Instagram, or you can check out their website, which is BLO-NY.com. Tell them Real Spill sent you.
Now back to the subject at hand, which is life. Because we all think we living because we wake up and we breathing. No, like I said, we alive. But if we don't have motion, or if you don't have any notion of constructive behavior, then that's not life. That's actually chasing death. You understand? Whether it may feel like it's life, but it's actually leading you to more and more destructive results. So, with that being understood, when you talk about life, like I said, the definition or the true meaning of life is in the definition. You understand? And if you're aiming to be alive, your behavior is gonna be constructive. It's not gonna be destructive. You understand? Now, a lot of us believe that you not living life until you got material gain, or you have a whole heap of materialism. And that's not true. You see, you got some of the most impoverished people in some of the worst countries enjoying life, though. You see, because they have the necessities, they have the family, they have the construction of what's going to aid them into carrying on and continuing. You see what I'm saying? That's life. They not bent off having the attachment of the clothing, of the luxuries. Let's just put it like that. They're not bent on having the attachment of the luxuries. You see what I'm saying? So life to them is basically having all the necessities necessary to aid in growth in their day-to-day breathing, so to speak. That's life to them. Now, over here to us, life may mean, oh, you ain't living if you ain't turned. You know? Or you ain't living if you don't have motion. You know what I'm saying? So, understanding that, know that a lot of people, like I said, is chasing clout. So they'll do destructive things in their life to try to obtain that clout. And they'll project it to the world as if they living. But really they just dying. Slowly but surely, whether their character is dying or whether their emotion or their light that they had inspiring the people is dying because of the behavior. See, if you're not dealing with, let's say, living behavior, you're not adding to the life, then you're not striving to progress. You're not striving to prosper. You understand? And in this country over here, people think prosperity is material gain. The more money you get, the more jewelry you get, the more cars you have, the more girls you own or you have, the more land you own, the more clout, the more popularity, the more, all that's material bondage. You understand? And if that makes your life, then without it, you feel like you're dead. Or you feel like you're dying. This is why a lot of people take their life. You understand? Because they attached what life truly is or what life should truly be to the material gain. And they feel like, yo, I ain't gaining, I ain't living. And that's absolutely wrong. Life in general is absolutely aiding the progress of your living quarters, of your living environment. You understand? When you see the grass is green, that's life. When you see the grass is brown, that's death. But they both still planted in the same ground. You understand? And I say that to say this. If you're not nurturing, you're not living. You understand? If you're not nurturing, you're not living. And if you want to talk about life, then you should be nurturing. And the only material that's nurturing in life is food, so to speak, you know? And your food should have life in it. You understand? But that's another stuff. That's another subject. It's another topic. We're going to give you that episode soon on health and wealth. Believe that. But
life, like I said, it should be nourishing. You understand? Everything you do that pertains to your life should be nourishing. And that's what life is. Anything other than that or besides that, that's what death is. You understand? Anything that stands still with no motion decays slowly but surely. You know? It's like a freezing time. You know? When you see death, everything is still. There's no life in it. There's no motion in it. There's no vibrance in it. You understand? So you gotta ask yourself, is my behavior bringing life or is my behavior bringing death? You understand? And it's up to you and each his own to how you want to live because you're breathing. But don't think that you're generally alive. Now you're technically alive because you're breathing, but generally alive is not so much because of your actions only lead to either self-destruction or environmental destruction or any sense of destruction, you know, any sense of bringing down the quality of your living. That's not life. You know what I'm saying? Life is enjoying the essentials that keeps you healthy and wealthy. You understand what I'm trying to say? So, understanding that, and with that being said, we're going to pause for a moment and we're going to shout out our sponsor, Enigma, where you can go and get all your social media needs met, where you can go and rent out podcast space to do your own podcasting or your own YouTube channel, where you need photography, you need product shots, you need on-site film work. Pop out Enigma. My man Louis Armstrong will get you right. Tell him Real Spill sent you. Now, yeah, let's get back. Let's get back to the topic. Now, give a brief little discussion about life in general for myself. You know what I'm saying? Now, me in general, I grew up sort of like an orphan. Let's say that. You feel me? Because I was young when I left the house. You know what I mean? I was young when I left the house thinking I was on my way to living life. But as time began to go on and maturity and aging began to go on, and it started to become a point to where there's no looking back, you know, I started to realize that life was life, and it actually started to make a brother look at it from a different perspective. You understand? So when that perspective was clear to me, I began to build. You feel me? I began to build, but what my construction first began with was knowledge of self. And that's what born life into me. That's what gave me the perspective on what it actually means to live and to be alive. And me coming up amongst a bunch of others, we was actually chasing death, literally chasing dead presidents. You understand? And every notion of our behavior basically revolved around just that. And we really found ourselves more so into situations and circumstances that could have took our life. Feel me? Street life, to me, was like educational at the same time, fun, so to speak. Because, like I said, as time went on, there was no looking back. So you got to a point in your life or age in your life to where now you really got to stand on life business. And if you aiming to live, then understanding what life truly means is gonna start becoming your behavior. You understand? It's gonna start becoming, you're gonna start adapting certain behavior because life is all about construction. You understand? When two and two come together and bring forth life, that's a bond, that's a construction, that's adding. You understand? And that form of behavior is the premise of life. You understand? You look at anything in nature, it has to come together to form another. You understand? So, understanding that adding on is a constructive notion to you wanting to live life should be a behavior that you incorporate in your life, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And chasing the material possessions all your life is not life. Understand that. And what you should really realize is that you should be only acquiring materials, physical, mental, spiritual, financial, however or whatever order you want to put it in. You should only be acquiring those materials to aid you in life. And that's my take on that. Real spill.